Just a couple of weeks away from spring practice at Coral Gables, Miami Hurricanes talk here with a wholesome one each and every Thursday. Lock it in right here. This is your opportunity to produce the show more than at any other time of the year. Not a whole lot going on, but it's going to explode here with spring practice here very soon. So you got your opportunity. Ask questions, leave your comments, debate topics, everything you've got there in the live chat, and I'll pick it up. Wholesome one, how's it going today?
It's going good. Happy Friday Eve. Happy Friday Eve to everyone. I know when I'm on here, it's almost the weekend. So, I mean, I'm done with the work week, but for everyone else, you still got one more day. So let's get
I
to
thought
it.
you just enjoyed doing our show. I thought that's what it was.
Well, that's a part of it, but it's also like, oh, well, it's already Thursday. Wow.
All right, everyone. Again, 128th edition Miami Hurricanes Live. Leave your comments and questions there in the live chat, and I will pass them on to the wholesome one, or I may have something to say as well. Keep in mind, we're on Patreon, 16 cents per day. Just grab the link in the description section, join Patreon, as well, of course, the live chats or the super chats available to you, as well as before you get involved in the analysis and everything else, might as well hit the like button right now. And, of course, it's hashtag Live Squad. All right, Jamal Johnson, 50th rated strong side defensive end out of Chaminade, Madonna, had committed to the Canes last July, made an announcement on Twitter that he was decommitting.
I think when it comes to those type of situations, we can't really judge from afar. We don't really know what's going on. It's a tricky situation for a lot of recruits. So when it comes to a young man deciding to step away for a while, for all we know, he could be just stepping away, review the scenery and step right back in. I don't know. There's been speculation that he had not liked some of the coaching changes. So maybe he had a really close relationship with whoever his main recruiter was, who's no longer a Miami Hurricanes coach. So maybe that's what happened. I mean, at Chaminade Manada and Shopping Yacht in Columbus, Miami has had some really good connections over the last 5 to 8 years. So it's been working out really well. I mean, you got a couple. Elijah Roberts is from Columbus. We just got Ryan Rodriguez from Columbus. From Chaminade, you had Keontra Smith. And then also from Shopping Yacht, you have Greg Russo, or one of the two. They're from. I always get those two mixed up. So either one of them, they wear the same colors too, Mark. Red, white, and blue. All three schools, they wear the same colors. It's so. I want to say Greg is from Shopping Yacht, or maybe he's from Chaminade. Oh, either way, you had a great relationship with all three of those schools, man. And we've had some, and in a state like Florida, in a place where recruiting is so wild, you're going to end up having those. But I've learned to kind of take my step back. As we're a year away from him putting pen to paper, so you never know what could happen. 7 to 9 months if you count the real signing period, and then the post signing period, which is in December now. So there's plenty of time to either recover, or for all we know, maybe the coaches went to look elsewhere. Who knows?
There you got it. I'll be scanning the live chat. Just started here. Leave your comments and your questions. I'm also looking at the comments that have come in response to the recent video posts from myself and the Wholesome One, and also Cam Underwood. Interesting to hear from Wise Words. He's got a number of interesting takes here. Number one is that as long as either De'Ara King or TVD starts against Alabama, he likes Miami to beat Alabama easily. And then next comment, Wise Words says, Mark, one day we will have a true sit down after Miami beats Alabama. I'll get on with you. Like I say, my grand on the man and his unit, the U, this dude doesn't bet no money. So that's I'm doing my best to try to find some good comments. So folks in the live chat, you guys need to step up here, because this is the best I'm coming up with right now. Is somebody else telling me I'm not the voice of college football. I'm the voice of
Twitter.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, Mark, but a lot of people loved our conversation we had last week. When we went kind of philosophical, as the talking about programs and compare Miami and how to build them up. I mean, talking about the tier, I've actually had a couple people come on my channel and they were like, that was such a great segment, so maybe we should bring more to that. I mean, Q&A is always fun, but education is, I think, the most important thing. It is key. Education is key, and I think me and you bounce off of each other a lot too. So.
Absolutely. Because we've got different perspectives on this for sure. And you're in the middle of it, and you're a football coach. And I take what I've gained from a media perspective and what I do. All right. Yeah. So, man, when we look at spring practice, man, it would be so nice to be able to stand on that field and watch rep after rep after rep after rep to see what's really going on. Because you know what's going to happen. We're going to get a little nugget here and a little slice there. And so one play or two plays is going to get blown out of proportion. If somebody finds out that so-and-so threw a pick in the red zone, or somebody ran 60 yards for a touchdown, and it's going to be blown out of proportion. Just had a Florida person on here a couple hours ago for a recording who said that Florida quarterbacks in their first scrimmage threw 5 interceptions. So, Gator fans are going to go nuts about that. It may mean something. It probably doesn't yet. Those kind of tidbits coming from spring practice. But for you, what are you going to be able to get out of spring practice that's going to be meaningful to you, to be able to piece something together to say, hey, I'm getting a feel that this is going on, or that's going on, or this is encouraging, or this is a little bit concerning?
Man, it's weird because there's always the fan in me that wants to come out. And it's like, Restrepo took a ball 70 yards. He's the starting slot. Pope is really getting it together. He actually caught the football. Like all that. You want to get excited about what's going down. But then there's also the other side of me that kind of tries to dial it back and understand they're in T-shirt and shorts. And, it looks nice. It's cool, but it doesn't always translate. But, one of the biggest things, Mark, that a lot of people don't understand. People think you win football games in September, November, December. You don't. This is when you win football games. This is it. This is where you lay that foundation of what you want to build the rest of moving forward. For people who like to work out, okay, you have to realize that, you feel the instant gratification, but you don't start seeing changes into your body till a week, 2, 3, maybe a month later. And that's why it's most important to stay consistent with your workouts so that you're stacking up workout on top of workout on top of workout on top of workout. So when you start seeing benefits come, they start showing up later on, but it's going to be a grand appearance because you've had such a great buildup to when you start to get to see your benefits of all the work that you've been putting in. That's what spring ball is about. If you listen to any of these great coaches, they talk about how important spring ball is. Training camp, of course, is super important. But spring, they tell you right now, they got Alabama film on right now in spring ball. Okay, they got Virginia film. They got Va Tech film. They got Georgia Tech film. You do a lot of that type of stuff also. You do what we call pre-game planning. Even you're putting in stuff for week 1 months in advance. You talk about Dan Enos. Let's go back to Dan Enos' drive, which I saw in person versus Florida in 2019. They went straight down the field. Why? Because they were able to scheme against Todd Grantham, and they know that he would like to come out in this type of defense early on in games. They give you this look. If you get this look, then you call this play. If you get the opposite look, then you call that play. And it was a scheduled drive, planned drive all the way through, and it worked out. A lot of coaches can do that. What about when people start making adjustments? That's where it's just completely different. So I say all of that to say this. What I would like to hear, number 1 is health, and number 2, team chemistry. What type of culture are we building? Because everybody's going to look good. In spring ball, you're just working out. You're basically working out the whole time. You got some football sprinkled in there, but for the most part, you're lifting, you're running, you're getting the beach abs. Summer body is on the way. All right, that's what you're really getting right now in spring ball. So yes, it is of the utmost importance. I'm not one of those people that come on here and tell you Miami's winning the Natty in the offseason. No. But for where we want to be as a program, we have to be taking spring just as serious as any game. So I love all the little stuff I'm hearing from like O-line, D-line, one-on-ones for stuff that the players are doing, player-led stuff, or player-led stuff with Tyler Van Dyke or Peyton Matoka, getting the wide receivers to go out there. It all sounds really good, but it's the reason why we're not really reporting on that stuff, because that's what they have to do in order to build some chemistry. We'll see what happens when they put on the pads.
Comment from the Rod Farva, Texas, Florida, California, Georgia, Louisiana. I think he's pretty much going in order. Ohio, Virginia /DC, Carolina, Pennsylvania, best high school football playing state. So I can't argue with that order, but just understand that on that scale, it drops pretty fast. Texas and Florida right now are stacked. California's always been as stacked as the other two, but that's changed. California's not playing as good a high school football. They don't have as good a prospects as Florida and Texas do right now. I've looked at this a number of different ways. So those have always been the top three, and pretty much every year between Texas, Florida, and California, they've produced 40% of the top 300 players in the nation. But right now, for example, if you look at the 2022 class, Texas and Florida both have about 55 4 and 5 stars, and California is more like 35. So there's been a bit of a drop, and Georgia's right on their heels. And then, like, Ohio is a good football playing state, but it's not as good as it was 30 years ago because they're they're not losing population. They're just not gaining population. And there's a pretty steep drop off after those top 3 to 4.
I also think Georgia is creeping. Is probably over the next couple of years.
Oh yeah,
going to creep into that top 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to kick California out, but the fact that you can go to Georgia to get quality quarterbacks also, because that was the stigma. You go to California, get your national championship QB. It's not like that anymore. So, I mean, Joe Burrow, Ohio, Justin Fields, Georgia, Trevor Lawrence, Georgia, Mac Jones, Alabama. It's not how the Tom Brady's and the Matt Lyon, like, there was always this stigma where you had to go to Southern Cal or California, period, to pick up a QB. I mean, I'm not here to hate on anybody's ball. At the end of the day, I think that there's quality football and a lot. In of the 50 states, I would say that there's quality football at 15 states. In the country. I'm not here to tell people what they can and can't do. I mean, I've gone to games here in North Dakota, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a national championship winning QB at Ohio State, but that team plays their system really well. They tackle really well. The offensive line is really good. Cool. They got some quality ball, pretty good ball. Now, Nick Saban isn't flying the helicopter to come down to Fargo, North Dakota to pick up the best guy from South. But, hey, some people have some pretty solid ball, man.
We look at the 2 quarterbacks taking over at Alabama and Clemson. I believe that's they're both from Florida, right? Bryce Young and DJ Uiagalelei, I think, are both Florida.
No, they're both California, actually.
California is what I meant. I'm sorry. I meant California. Yeah, to back your point on that,
because then you look at Kyle Trask, Florida, or is he Texas? Yes, Texas. You look at De'Aaron King, Texas. Who else is doing pretty well? Quarterbacks. BY. Mark, you know what we were supposed to do today?
What's that?
We were supposed to do our NFL draft show today. That was what remember we talked about it last week?
Yeah, we talked about just from a Miami standpoint.
Yeah, we were going to do a show dedicated to the 4 guys that were going to go to the NFL draft. I just remembered that. I looked down at my notepad.
You want to get into it?
Let's do it. I mean, I already have it written up. I mean, unless there's something else you want to get into
it. Who's our 4?
We have 3 defensive ends. You got Gregory Russo.
Yep.
Roche, Quincy Roche, You also have Jalen Phillips with Brevin Jordan. Now, there is a fifth, and our kicker, Jose Borregales, but, I don't really know. He's a draftable kicker, so I think he has like a third, fourth, fifth round grade somewhere in there.
He's not a
as the
football
best
player.
kicker in the country. Exactly. Pedro. Trash was King's backup. I did remember that he was from Texas. I caught myself, even though he went to Florida. Side note, Mark, I always thought about this. What if, and this is funny, what if in college ball you could only recruit your state? Like, go back to, because, in the 80s and 90s, that was a thing. Most likely than not, you look at somebody's roster and it was majority either from in-state or, like, if you're from Tallahassee, then you probably you could have went to, if you're from Jacksonville, you could go to Georgia because it's borderline. But it wasn't this where people went all over the country. You're from Miami, you didn't play at Washington. How do you think college football would be different? For some unapparent reason, they make this rule that for the next 4 years, you can only recruit your state. How wild would college football be, in your opinion?
Well, I think what we just laid out as being the best high school football playing states would, of course, service those schools, but then we would also have to look to see how many schools are playing big time college football in that particular state. For example, you got Texas with amazing talent and tons of it, but they also have a lot of schools that are going to take up those players and split them up. Texas, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Houston, on down the line. Where Georgia, LSU's an interesting dynamic there in Louisiana, because Louisiana produces per capita more NFL players than any state. It's just not a highly populated state. We were looking at it and making some comparisons to Ohio yesterday, and there's like 13 million people in Ohio, and there's 4.5 million people in Louisiana. It's just not a highly populated state. But there's
4 million people in the whole state?
Yeah. In Louisiana, there's 4.5 million people. Yeah, I'll double check.
That's horrible. That's horrible. Miami-Dade County has 3.2.
Yeah, it's a small state. Besides, you got New Orleans is huge. And then besides that, Baton Rouge is a decent sized town. And then the rest of it's just. So.
No way.
I'm going to double check here. It does sound rather 4.6 million. Yeah.
That doesn't even sound like it should
million
be a thing.
In Louisiana. Yeah.
That's bad. Anyway, the reason why I just think it could work both. And you guys know this is off-season talk for us. I mean, we start throwing out questions like this is real off-season talk. But how many teams would be affected like that? I mean, especially you look at a powerhouse like Bama. No more going into South Florida to build your wide receiver core. So,
Bama would take a huge hit, and they'd have to share with Auburn. Auburn and Bama would take a huge hit.
Yep. Then let's think about teams like LSU would be so happy because Alabama goes and takes the best out of Louisiana almost every year. I think they won their first big recruiting battle for that safety this year. That was the highest rated recruit in that state that they kept home, besides Leonard Fournette, way back in my recruiting class in 2014. 7 years ago was the last time that they were able to hold down the fort and keep the top rated recruit home.
I'm going to say that LSU would benefit in any school in the country right off the top of my head. They're the only team in the state.
If you think, they're the only, I mean, the other beautiful thing is what would it do for young men? So if you happen to be a 3-star, you probably going to get your chance at LSU. It will give you an opportunity. You look at UL Lafayette, Tulane, schools like that, they would get a big influx because you don't have to go to LSU. Like I said, you could pick between whatever school is in state. And like I said, it's fantasy talk, but I think it would be cool to see you might have a 5-star who's like, you know what? I'm gonna pull what's the defense? And Oliver, who went to Houston, I'll pull that out, sign with Tulane. You know, it'll be kind of cool to see that. Oh yeah, Louisiana Tech. Pretty cool. This is a fantasy question for you. So you said LSU would benefit the most.
Off the top of my head, I don't think there's any question about it, because California would have to split it up between 4 Power 5 teams, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, and a pretty high power group of 5 in San Diego State and San Jose State, who won the Mountain West last year. You know who plays some decent high school football? Now, when I say, I'm not comparing it to the states we're talking about. Well, they would have to split it among 2 schools. I was only considering Utah for a second, but of course BYU's out there as well, and Utah State at the group of 5. So Wisconsin keeps all their kids and don't have to share them. Minnesota, Wisconsin plays better high school football than, Ohio takes a big hit. Not that they don't have more players than anybody in the Midwest, but Ohio State goes to California, they go to Florida, they go to Texas, they go wherever they want and get players.
That's a worldwide brand.
There are more players in the Big Ten from the state of Ohio than anywhere else. So there's a lot of really quality 3 stars in Ohio that like fill up rosters. But if Ohio State had to sit at home, they're suddenly 8-4.
Yeah,
they're not competing for national championships. No,
the big 3 in the state of Florida would be out of this world good, though. I mean, Miami, Florida, and UCF, we'd be doing really well. So.
And Notre Dame would have to fight with Indiana and Purdue for recruiting in Indiana, which is not great. And they've got 3 big schools there. They would be hurting.
But you see how, you could turn this into a whole segment if you want to on, you could do a whole deep dive video into it. I think it would be really cool. I think it would be really nice to think of like an alternate, I don't know if it's an alternate universe, but just something different, Arkansas can only recruit Arkansas.
There's a stat for you right there. We just looked at Arkansas football is pretty, not disparaging anybody. There's just not a whole lot of people there. The Rod Farva looked it up. 3 million people in Arkansas.
Oh, and so you're talking about another school? Clemson. Man. Pew! They would be. It's so funny because for all the people who have, and I know we understand what happens behind closed doors, but for all these schools that think they're just high and mighty, if you had to just go off of coaching, local recruiting, which I think would be unfair because Miami would probably be up there in the conversation again. So, but it will be interesting to see some of these schools fall off. But you also would see some people come out of nowhere. I think Pitt, Penn State, like those schools that the Virginias and the DMV, if they were able to hold down. You look at Chase Smith, who was the 2nd overall pick. He's from Maryland. So imagine him signing with Maryland as opposed to signing with the Ohio State. You look at Jeff Okuda. He's from I think Waco, Texas. He can sign anywhere in Texas, but think about that. It'd be cool.
The number 1 quarterback in the country next year is not to Texas, but signed at Ohio, or he committed to Ohio State. Quinn Ewers. But Virginia and Maryland would have to battle over the DMV. They would have to battle over DC.
Because there's no school in DC.
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool. Then you also think about the FCS level too. So imagine, your HBCUs, your historic Black colleges and universities, they would get an influx of players also to attend their schools. I think that would be really cool also.
I think Rutgers might get a little bit better.
Rutgers, like I said, you could go really deep with this, Mark. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a
New Jersey's pretty New Jersey's pretty good. And Rutgers would be able to keep everyone. They lose most of them.
Exactly.
The
Tell
number
me,
one player
give
in
you $1 million
Rutgers,
deal.
one of the top players in the state of New Jersey, I remember, defensive lineman, went to Ole Miss. They're going all over the place. Michigan and Wisconsin go out to New Jersey and take players all the time, and so does Penn State.
Then little
Chug Mo
places
Beer.
Okay.
Appreciate that super chat. Hello, Mark. Someone. Live squad. Hashtag, of course, there. Smash the like button. Support the channel. Let's go Canes. Appreciate that so much. Chug Mo Beer, who's always here supporting. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, the NFL draft talk. We'll get into that.
Yes. Let's get to it.
So we got 4 players. And over this time, Mark, we've had over the Manny Diaz regime. We've had, Coach Manny Diaz regime. We've had times where he's had players go to the NFL, and we've had the stigma of day 3 EU. Some of his best players have all been drafted in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. For the first time, he's going to have 2 players be drafted on day 1 from his defensive side of the ball under Coach Manny Diaz. Because the last first-round defensive player that we had was Artie Burns, who was a part of the 2016 recruiting class, but it was before Coach Manny, not recruiting class, 2016 NFL draft, before Coach Manny Diaz was our DC. So that's the only issue when it comes to when it comes to what Coach Manny Diaz has been doing. He's been producing NFL guys, but he's been producing day 3 guys. Jaquan Johnson in the 4th round. Cedric Redwine. Flip. Redwine was in the 4th round. Jaquan Johnson was in the 5th round. 4th round, Shaq Quarterman. Then you also had Gerald Willis, who went undrafted. Kendrick Norton, who was in the 7th round. R.J. McIntosh, who was a 6th rounder. Joe Jackson, who was a 6th rounder. You had Michael Jackson, the corner for the Cowboys, was a 6th rounder. Also, John Garvin was a 7th rounder. So he's been building. It's been a gradual buildup, but he's gotten better and better and better in his evaluation of the players, and hopefully we're getting them to start producing on the other side. Now, you get a guy, let's start out with Greg Russo. So Greg Russo decides to opt out of the 2020 season. And I don't even know what could have happened if you match him and Jalen Phillips on the same field together. That would have been so amazing to see, but we didn't. He made the best choice for him, where he goes and gets a private trainer. He's up to like 272, Mark. The dude looks out of this world. Physically, he looks great. I listened to a couple of interviews with him, and it seems as though either this personal trainer, Coach Chuck Smith down in Atlanta, told him, either his agent told him, or he's done a lot of self-evaluations, but he's looked at a lot of the stuff that he did in the 2019 season as a redshirt freshman at 19 years old. And he looks at the fact that he needs to come up with more moves. He looks at the fact that he needs to have counter moves. He needed to show speed. He needed to take over games. All those type of things. He's openly speaking about the fact that he has to change if he wants to have success at the NFL level. Another question for him is, at 6'7", 270 pounds, what are you? Okay, are you a 3-4 interior lineman, or are you a 4-3 strong side defensive end? Or are you in like a Terrell Suggs, who was 270? Are you a strong side 3-4 stand-up outside linebacker? What do you bring to the table? And he talked about being super diverse and really being able to be a scheme diverse player. I don't really know if I see that much for him. I think he's a true 4-3 strong side DM. But I want to see this new Greg Russo that he's talking about being now. Someone that isn't just going to bull rush you or long arm you or just out athlete you to the QB. Because you get to the NFL level and these right and left tackles, have tight end feet, guard hands, and tackle size. Okay, they are athletes just as well as you are. All right, you can't just be zooming past and work a quick swim over the far side right arm and think you're going to make it to the QB. It doesn't work like that anymore. You know, in high school, Mark, and I know you evaluate high school film from time to time. You pop on a young man's highlight tape, and they just fly right past the right tackle. You know, they run around them, a quick dip rib, quick swim. You know, you don't really see them truly working moves unless they come from some of these elite programs where they're getting coached up and high technique is required to be on the field. So you saw a lot of that with Greg Russo in his 2019 film, was that he just out-athleted and super long, and he just had that effort and that want to. He just went out and made plays. I'm hoping he can take the coaching he's getting from Coach Chuck Smith and add it and make it the piece that clay together of the player that he can truly become. This young man, the sky is no limit for him. I'm not saying he's going to walk into the National Football League and beat Von Miller. That's not what I'm saying. But if he goes and gets coached up well, it's going to be a problem for whatever conference he's in, because he's going to make plays. Great football IQ, great length, great effort. And if you got a young man who wants to be coached, who gives that effort on the football field, who doesn't mind running down on specials, he doesn't mind being on field goal because he understands I'm 6'7". Yeah, I could be one of the wings on a field goal or punt team, you know, things of that nature. I really love what he's bringing to the table. And I hope he goes to a team where he's not forced to be the man too early, Mark. That's my personal opinion. Like, I don't want him to go to the Giants or the Cowgirls or something like that where he's forced to – they want him to be the guy from day one, because you're going to be getting a young man that when he touches your field, he may be 20 and a half going on 21. You can't expect him to be out here with late 20, 30-year-old men, grown men, jumping off the screen to you really early in his career. And you don't need all that outside pressure. You know, the New York press has this thing. And you talk about Skip Bayless and those guys on national TV when they have their favorite teams. You got to be careful when you get drafted there. So for me, I see him somewhere in the mid first round, 11 through 20. I've seen him as early as 8 or 9, and I've seen him as late as 26th earlier. It's like, wow, that's a big drop off for him way at 26. But I think it could also really work for what I want for the young man, as far as him going to a quality organization, him going to a quality team, to where he doesn't have to be that guy too early. And if he goes later on in the first round, that usually means what? He's getting drafted by a better team. You know, if he gets drafted in the mid first round, he's going to a team that's like 8-8, 9-7, like their middle of the road pack, and he can go help get him over the hump. If he goes too early, then he's going to a bad team where they absolutely need him to make plays day one. So I think it works out better for a young man like Greg Russo to go in late first round, but he does have a mid first round grade for me. I really like what he brings to the table.
Yeah, based on what I've been able to find here, CBS Sportsline has Russo going to the Vikings at 14. And to your most recent part of your dissertation, number 27 to the Ravens is the pick by Bleacher Report for Greg Russo. I've not been able to track down Mel Kiper and Todd McShay's lists. They're under that locked ESPN Plus.
See, now Mel is the only one. Mel Kiper is the one I've seen that has him rated at 9th overall to the Giants, which I understand to a certain extent, but I'm one of those people that I don't want to see that for one of my guys, because I know what's going to happen. He's going to get all that pressure. They're going to expect him to be LT or what's the young man, that defensive end, 92. Michael Strahan, there we go.
Yep. And
he's not those guys, at least not right now. You know, got to give him time to grow. Michael Strahan was drafted, he was 23. LT was 24. This young man is 20. You know, like, he needs his time to get to that level. There's another player that I'm going to talk about right after this who I can't wait to see him on that stage.
We talking about Jalen Phillips?
Jalen Phillips. Man, Mark, you talk about a player who you go up the bat and you know that it's going to be a fastball. I mean, he's high in his pitch count, okay? Bases are loaded. You know for a fact he's going to give you a fastball. And you're going to knock this and hit the grandma in the stands. You can't throw it. I'm telling you, throw it. Throw it if you want to. Comes right off that finger. Bing! I mean, that sound is like nothing else. That perfect hit on a home run. This is a home run player. Anybody who drafts Jalen Phillips, you're getting a home run player. Here's the problem, though. Okay. It could be a grand slam, or it could just be a home run. One of the two. Here's what I tell you. He's so confident in his playmaking. He's so confident in his athleticism that sometimes he freelances to make plays because he's just that athletic. So he can still make the plays, but there'll be times like North Carolina where he'll lose contain. There's times versus Clemson where he will lose contain because he's just so used to being able to peek inside and rip inside of the Virginia Tech right tackle, the Virginia right tackle, the Duke right tackle, where he's able to still make plays. Well, you're going up against the best of the best now, right? So things are a little different. When you look at his story, okay, you go from one of the number one recruits, you and Chase Smith are tit for tat, back and forth for the number one recruit in the class of 2017. Okay. A year or so into your UCLA career, you retired medically due to concussions. I mean, he had a wrist accident and all types of ankle injuries. His injuries started to really pile up, so he ends up retiring. He goes into fashion and music. Then he gets a second opinion, and he can get cleared if they give him a certain amount of time away from playing ball. Transfers, hit the transfer portal, comes to Miami. He gets to Miami, Mark. He's 220 pounds. He's taking pictures, and he just doesn't look like the same player. Coach Dave Feely and him get together, and they turn this young man from 220 pounds to 270 pounds in a calendar year. And it was gradual. Spring came around, he was like 240. Camp came around, he was like 265, somewhere in there. By the end of the season, he's like pushing 270, right? And now in prep, he's flushed at like 267 and 270, somewhere in there for where he's going to play in the NFL. But I take you back to a time where it all could have been taken away from him. Versus Louisville. One of the dirtiest blocks I've seen in a long time. Okay, so it's read option, and the tight end comes from the backside. He's at H-back. He's coming from the backside. And he's going to cut the defensive end. So Jalen stands up, and he gets in the stance while he's reading the QB. The Louisville tight end puts his helmet right on the side of his knee, and it almost pops out the other side. He's on the ground, and all of us are like hands and knees praying because that, number one, wasn't a dirty shot. I mean, it was disgusting, the shot that he took at him. But he was able to take the rest of that game off, come back, and have a pretty productive season for Miami. But what comes out of all of that you see in this young man, he's resilient. The question of does he love football was answered with his physique and with the way that he played this season. All right. Playmaking abilities, sacks, TFLs, all of that you can turn on the film and see with Jalen Phillips. But what makes me so excited about this young man's future is that he never gave up, Mark. He never once gave up. And I can only commend the young man because there's a lot of people, man, with size and athleticism and give effort and give great interviews. But when a player can put all that together, they've had a lot of adversity in their life, and they've never folded. I really like those type of young men. So the makeup of Jalen Phillips, what was put together, his parents, they did a great job. Because that young man, he never once put his head down. He kept fighting. And now he's going to go from a year or so ago, retired, making rap songs and trying to come up with a design for a T-shirt, to a first-round NFL draft pick. What a story.
We talk Miami football here each and every week, Thursday, 4:30 Eastern time with a wholesome one right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So, folks, hit the like button. Don't be lazy. Don't just give a little bit. Hit the like button. Share the videos out on social media. So think of it this way. People follow you on Twitter. They connect with you on Facebook and all sorts of other social media. They don't know that we're here talking college football every day. So share the videos, please, on social media. And, of course, subscribe right here. And also head on over to the Wholesome One's channel, Wholesome One Holloway, and subscribe at his channel as well. So a third defensive end is in the mix. Of course, Quincy Roche, the transfer from Temple, who had led the American Conference in sacks his last year there, and more of a technician, correct?
Yes. Before we get into Quincy Roche, do you want to answer this question on the screen, or do you want me to just go with Quincy?
Yeah. So we can move along through the questions here. Ronan had poked me a few times to let me know that he had left a super chat question. I missed it. The voice of college football and face of FCS football. I know it's pre-spring and fall, but ideally, wholesome one. Who would be your starting five along the O-line? Keep up the great work. Go Canes.
That's a good one, man. That's a good. The face of FCS football.
Ronan's got some good ones.
I tell you what. I remember the first time my parents caught me on camera here at NDSU. And oh my God. They sent me all these screenshots, like taking pictures of you're on TV. I'm like, yeah. The face of FCS. For me, my starting lineup: left tackle, I think Zion Nelson. Left guard, I have. I'm gonna throw a wrench in there. I'm gonna say Zion Nelson at left tackle. At left guard, to me, it'll either be DJ Scaife or Campbell. So I'm gonna go with Scaife at left side, left guard. So our protection is up. Center, I have Gaynor. At right guard, I have Navon Donaldson, and at right tackle, I have Jared Williams. So from left to right, I have Zion Nelson, Scaife, Gaynor, Donaldson, Jared Williams.
There it is. Before we get back to the NFL draft, another random question coming in from the Rod Farva for the wholesome one. Do you think Trey Lance should transfer to a Power 5 school to improve his draft position? Mel Kiper suggested he should have transferred to Ohio State, where he would have been the number one pick.
What? I'm not even going to waste time with this question. I'm going to just give you a simple no. I think that if you can go back a couple years from now and have the second overall pick from our institution, then what's the point? It doesn't prove anything.
There you go. It happens. These guys can be found now. They play on television in the FCS. There's plenty of film out there. They get scouted. These teams spend multiples of millions of dollars to scout and evaluate. So, all right. Again, let's stay at defensive end with our third prospect at that position. Quincy Roche, transfer from Temple, led the American Conference in sacks.
Oh, man. If you want to look at Quincy Roche's stats, you would think that it was such a down year. It was an up, and that's a young man who I think the difference was huge for him at defensive end, because you're the man in the AAC. Group of five wise, you're one of the best players. You take a step up to the ACC Coastal, and you put up about half of your production sack-wise, you put up about 75% of your TFL production, but you still showed quality film. That's another thing people don't understand. Yeah, there are stats that jump off the screen to you, but these NFL evaluators, they turn on film. They don't type in Quincy Roche stats and go to ESPN or whatever different type of websites they go to. They don't look at statistics. Okay. See, a lot of people get this thing all misconstrued, man. People love this whole pro football focus and analytics and this percentage of a time and all this type of stuff. What does the film say about a prospect? Okay. I knew something was wild and off with Pro Football Focus when they said that Anthony Chickalo, who was a rotational edge rusher for the Steelers at the time, had the highest run stop percentage per play. What? He doesn't even start for his own team. So you're telling me he's the best run stopper in the National Football League? Come on, man. Like why? You know, why? I understand numbers do certain things for people. You know, I'm not here to talk politics, but there's always that stigma about getting this percentage vote and that. What does the film say about a player? What does the film say about coaches? Okay. Talk about Quincy Roche. This man made plays. No, he didn't have 15 and a half TFLs. He didn't have 20 sacks. Okay. But when you look at some of the stuff that he did the early half of the season, it was the Quincy Roche show. After halfway mark, he became the one that got the double teams, and then Jalen just takes off. He starts making plays for us on the strong side. So they put the play together. They made a lot of really good plays. As far as a technician, he's not going to beat you with athleticism. He's going to have to be a 3-4 outside linebacker. I unfortunately do not believe that he can be a true 4-3 defensive end, whether it be on the strong side or the weak side. I mean, you're talking about a young man who's about 6'2", maybe 6'3", and he's not the most agile, and his arm length is not super long either. Okay, so don't give me the whole, well, Von Miller's only 6'3". Von Miller has a 6'7" wingspan. Is probably one of the most athletic players in the National Football League, regardless of position when healthy. Quincy Roche is not that type of player, all right? No, he's not a power rusher. He does know how to work multiple moves to get to the QB. But for the most part, his moves, he has a very high IQ, and there's a plan. Okay, he has a plan when he's rushing the QB. And it comes from a lot of film study, a lot of understanding what his opponent likes to do. You know, certain sets when it comes to certain formations and certain snaps. He's really big on down and distance and things of that nature. I mean, he flashes. He flashes on film for you. He has that late second, mid third round grade. He's a top 75 pick. But for the most part, he most likely won't be a first rounder. He won't be an early second rounder. I think if there's a huge run on edge rushers, he could go late second because you start talking about 64 picks. I think he is, like I said, I believe he's a top 75 pick, and so does Mel Kiper and DJ. They think he's a top 75 player in the country. So he'll be right up there in those picks. But he's not Greg Russo. He's not Jalen Phillips. He also can disappear. The Clemson left tackle really shut him out. That was a game that would have been huge for him on stage. He made most of his plays versus the Virginias, the UABs, and the Dukes, as opposed to the NC States, as opposed to the UNCs and the Clemsons. All right. And you can't go missing when you are someone who took that step from FCS up to FBS. You know, you can't go missing in certain games where everyone's watching. So that was a big minus in my evaluation of Quincy Roche.
Tight end Brevin Jordan finished strong here in the 2020 season. Final 3 games, 31 let's see, in the final 3 games, he had 4 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns for the season, 38 receptions, 576 through the air, 13 touchdowns in his career at Miami, 105 catches, 1,300 plus yards. So he's been called the best tight end in America by some, including our guy Cam Underwood. Brevin Jordan.
That's a good one. Brevin Jordan, I don't know if Kyle Pitts ain't no tight end, so I think that's where the conversation starts at.
Yes.
Kyle Pitts is he's like an NBA player who went to the WNBA and started like beating his chest. It's like, calm down, bro. Like, calm down. You get what I'm saying? Like, you were playing at Duke, and then you came down to play at South Dakota, and you're the best player in this conference. Like, no, dude, it's different. Okay, you couldn't make it somewhere else, so you swung over to a different position. Huge playmaker. I can't take that away from him. But when we talk about not Jalen Phillips, talk about Brevin Jordan, playmaker, over his time at Miami, biggest thing for him is health-wise, man. He can't. He has not shown you that he is a healthy football player for 16 games, for a full season. And that's why I don't believe he will be a first-round draft pick. Okay, I think he drops to the 3rd or 4th round. He's 6'2". He's more like a 4'6", 40 guy. He's not the fastest. He's one hellified offensive tackle. He can pass block like nobody's business. He can run block really well. But when you talk about the National Football League, there's a lot of big hurdles, okay? And they want you to basically be, for lack of a better term, I don't like using certain terms, but they want you to be an athletic freak, okay? They want you to be something that's just completely different from anything else that they have seen. You got a tight end from Penn State, and then there's Brevin. So you got Pitts is listed as a tight end when it comes to the NFL draft, so they have him at number 1. At number 2, you have the guy from Penn State who opted out this season, and you have Brevin Jordan. I think he's going to be so scheme dependent also. I hope he goes somewhere that already has kind of an established tight end to where he can come in and be that H-back. He can be the second tight end and slowly, gradually get up there. I mean, his hands are amazing when no one's around. But if there's a DB on him or a linebacker on him, he probably is going to drop that ball. Okay. Speed-wise, route running-wise, it's But the dude he's a playmaker. It's weird, like if you put him out there in T-shirt and shorts and you ask him to just go out there and make plays, he's probably not going to jump off the screen to you. But you put on a helmet, pads, you ask him to go be a football player, he's going to make plays. And I don't think that it's a slight. I don't think that it's disrespectful to say that about Brevin, because at the end of the day, he can go on to have an 8-10-year NFL career being a great football player. People always think you got to be this super uber athlete. No, you could be a good football player, or you could be a great athlete that knows football. It kind of goes together either way. So we will see. Because I look at a guy like Greg Olsen. I wouldn't call him a super duper athlete, and he played 16 years in the National Football League. But he's also 6'6". That's where the issue gets when it comes to Brevin. But a couple teams I would love to see him go play with. I think he would fit well with a team like the Vikings. Green Bay, I think he would fit well. The Rams, 49ers. I hope he doesn't go anywhere like the Cowgirls. I hope he doesn't go anywhere like the Giants. Hopefully not the Dolphins. Please, no, not the Dolphins. Don't go to the Dolphins. Where else could I see him going? Atlanta. I think Atlanta would be really cool for him. But I think he's someone that you can depend on to get open. He has that separation. He can get subtly open for a quick window. We're going to see what happens when he can do against NFL linebackers and safeties. But as far as teams, when we played Florida, he made plays. We played Tallahassee, which is usually one of the most athletic defenses every single year. He makes plays against them every single year of his career. I think he scored in every game versus those people. Huh. 18, he had the game-winning bomb. 19, he had like a quick slant. In 2020, he had like a 40-yard seam route. Cool for him. But yeah, like I said, somewhere in there, third, fourth round. I think he's a top 100 pick with no problem. But I think he could eke up to like 70, 60, somewhere in there.
You like those players that step up against the rival and get it done.
Yeah, Mark, because at the end of the day, as much as trash talk as I talk about them, they have always been quality teams. So I want you to show up in primetime ABC. You know, I want to see you show up against the best of the best. And what happened with Brevin is he did. Whenever he had an opportunity to make plays against these people on any stage, like I said, when I was at the Florida game, I was there in person. He made plays. LSU was literally the only big game we had where we didn't get him the ball. We got blown out by North Carolina, but he had his career day, 160 some odd yards and 2 touchdowns, I believe. Against Va Tech the year before, he was a part of the comeback. He had a lot of big plays in that game also. So, yeah, I mean, he's no David Njoku, but every player is different. Every player is different. And whoever gets him, they're going to get a leader. Okay, they're going to get – I tell the story of the time. I don't know. I think I've said this on your channel before. I was at a practice, and Ja'Kai Clark, number 53 for us, tired, freshman year. He's coming off the sideline, and he's breathing super hard. And he, like, yanks his chin strap off, and he, like, launches his helmet. And Brevin just walks over there. He picks up the helmet. He said, "Do you know what you carry? What are you doing? We never do that. Don't ever throw your helmet on the ground. That you on the side of your helmet is treacherous. It's pressure. Don't hit it." He handed his helmet to him. This was in front of the whole sideline of fans, of those of us in attendance. He wasn't looking for an applause. He wasn't trying to demean Ja'Kai Clark. It was a leadership moment. You know, you can hold your helmet up and breathe like that, or take it off and hold it in your hand. But don't ever throw your helmet on the ground out of frustration or being tired. And that was a lot for me to see. But he's also had moments where, we lose 62-26, and he's on social media talking about Florida losing because they threw a shoe. There's a couple lapses in judgments when it comes to him, but he's a young man. He's a young man. Okay, so just like I said, there's good and there's bad, but he's a very emotionally driven guy. I'll never forget, he comes out the first interview of the 2019 summer camp and says all 3 quarterbacks are elite. You know the 3 quarterbacks he was talking about, Mark? Nikosi Perry, Tate Martell, and Jaron Williams.
Sure.
Who are no longer on our roster. Okay, so, but at the end of the day, what was he supposed to say? Everyone sucks. He was supposed to say they all suck. No, but it's different stuff. So when it comes to Brevin, I hope he goes on to have a really good career. But I think I know what I'm going to get in that player.
Miami fans, everybody watching, look at the banner here. Register at voiceofcollegefootball.com. You get a free face mask. So if you're a Miami fan, you want to rep your favorite team, you rep the Canes. You can get a face mask right there. We've got about 35 teams there. Everybody in the SEC. We've got, all the big teams across the country. So you can get a face mask right there for free. You just go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, voiceofcollegefootball.com. You see my site there. Go to the menu bar at the top. It says register for free. You just give us your name, the info right there. I get you a coupon code, and then you can get the free face mask of your favorite team. You can then get 20% off your first purchase. That doesn't mean you need to buy anything, but if you do buy something, you get 20% off. And you also are entered into a drawing for a $25 gift card. So please do that. voiceofcollegefootball.com. Please, even if you don't want a face mask, check out the site, give it a look, and register right there. Just so we can say hi, keep in contact with you. All right. We'll be back Friday night at 6 for a call-in show. 6 p.m. Eastern time call-in show here at the Voice of College Football. Check out the Wholesome Ones YouTube channel, of course. All right, man. Appreciate you stopping by. Anything else?
Not much, man. We're super excited. For the first time, Miami's going to have a guy drafted in the first round since David Njoku. Feels like so long ago. Not a guy, multiple guys. And it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. Now, you could argue one was a transfer, but one was developed at Miami from the ground up. So it shows that what Coach Diaz, when it's done right, he can develop first rounders. I mean, remember, Greg Russo was a wide receiver tight end in high school. A wide receiver, linebacker, safety, tight end. Turned into a first round defensive end. So, and most likely the first defensive end picked in the draft. Like that, like he, if you're a 5-star defensive end out there, or if you're a big time recruit, keep Miami in mind. We're putting together some nice stuff, man. And if you give him the right players, he can do really well. And I think next year we're going to fill the draft with a lot of, I don't know if it'll be a lot of first rounders, but a lot of top 50 guys too, with guys like Light-Skin Warrior Bubba Bolden and Cam Harris and DJ Ivy and Tyree Stevenson. And I don't know about Gary Hall leaving early, but I think we're going to do well. We're going to do well. Another thing I want to see, Mark, is how we're going to replace all this NFL talent departure. How's Javari Harvey? How's the defensive end from Tennessee, last name Johnson? Harrison Hunt and Nasty Nesta up the middle. Like, what are we going to do? But for the most part, I like what I'm seeing. I like the foundations being laid with Coach Diaz. So, hey, give him the blueprint, give him time to build his house, and let's see what it looks like. It's always a great time to be here. As always, go Canes.
Friday at 6 Eastern right here, everyone. Call-in show. We'll see you then.